6 spine-chilling online dating nightmares. Discover how sinister catfishes haunted their victims. Jamie sat in her dimly lit living room, heart racing as she scrolled through dating profiles late at night, with her 2 children sleeping just down the hall. The glow of her phone illuminated her face, casting shadows that seemed to whisper secrets of remote horrors. With each swipe, she peeled back the layers of desperation in her heart, seeking connection in a world that felt increasingly suffocating. There was something downright haunting about occasions when night fell and solitude wrapped around her like a thick, chilling fog. Then, there he was, David. His profile radiated charm like a beacon in the darkness. Stories of local legends, of the grim stalker, sent chills racing down her spine, and yet she was drawn to him. A spirit haunting the woods, he'd written, a less than subtle nod to the folklore she grew up with. But there was an underlying current to his words that struck her as odd. His enchanting banter soon twisted strange, dipping into ominous tales that made her heart thud in panic. Feeling a rush of urgency, she confided in her friends. They laughed her off. "It's just online dating, Jamie. You're just being paranoid," they echoed, their chuckles echoing hollowly in her ears. Yet, as shadows crept closer each night, something didn't feel right. A creeping dread serpentined through her thoughts. One afternoon, while taking her children to the park, the hairs on the back of her neck stood up. Jamie stopped in her tracks, staring in horror as she spotted David lurking behind an oak tree, his eyes fixed on her like a predator sizing up its prey. Heart pounding, she quickly gathered her kids and rushed home, an overwhelming sense of dread forcing her to hurry. That evening, while the kids were tucked safely in bed, it felt as though a storm was brewing. Jamie, eyes wide with fright, felt that primal instinct stirring within her. She glanced at her phone. David's late-night messages were erratic, filled with dark folklore undertones. Goosebumps crawled up her arms as his words twisted around her thoughts, a tortured prose that grasped at her sanity. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." "Now let's continue," he texted again, and she froze. "I see you, Jamie. You're not as safe as you think you are." Cold sweat dripped down her back. The walls of her home, once a sanctuary, felt like a prison closing in around her. The kids had crawled into bed with her, their innocent giggles twisting into sinister echoes in her mind. Had David been watching them too? Panic flooded her heart, and she swore to protect them at all costs. As the night twisted into darker hours, she dove into the town's folklore, uncovering chilling connections in old newspaper clippings, disappearances tied to the very tales David had spun. Her breath quickened. No, this couldn't be happening. This was her life. Yet, as she pieced together each horrifying fact, she questioned whether she could truly keep her children safe. The phone buzzed again, another message from David lighting up the dark. "Tonight, you'll discover the truth." As her world flipped into chaos, Jamie realized her fight for survival had only just begun, and the very essence of her peace was fading into something far more sinister. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, as Jamie's mind raced. "Tonight, you'll discover the truth." The words repeated in a loop like a mantra. Goosebumps rippled down her arms. She glanced at the kids, peaceful in their dreams, completely unaware of the hell that was closing in on them. Her instincts screamed for action. She couldn't just sit and wait. With trembling hands, she grabbed her phone and opened the browser. Searching for more about David, she felt the weight of imminent dread. The stories she had dismissed as folklore began to feel alarmingly real. The grim stalker, tales of families vanishing without a trace, leaving nothing but whispers in the wind. Click, click, click. Information spilled before her, dark alleys of her town's past. Just as she found a mention of a recent disappearance, a loud noise made her jump, a branch scraping against the window. Fear shot through her like ice. She froze, still as a statue, waiting for the next sound. And then her phone pinged again. "Look outside, Jamie." Mind racing, she looked out through the thin curtains. Her heart pounded painfully against her chest as she caught a glimpse of the familiar shadow just beyond the reach of her porch light. David. He was standing there, unblinking, a grave figure against the night. Panic surged, and without thinking, she fumbled for her keys to lock the door. "Mommy?" One of her children stirred, breaking the spell. "Shoo. It's okay, sweetheart. Just go back to sleep." Her voice barely broke a whisper. Each heartbeat thundered in her ears. She had to protect them. The phone vibrated again, the ghostly light illuminating the dark living room. "I know you're in there. You can't hide forever. Tonight, I will show you what happens when the past is awakened." Jamie gritted her teeth, fighting back tears of fear. What did that even mean? The terror seeped into every corner of her mind, robbing her of thoughts. But another part recognized the power in his words and urgency to face him. She couldn't let him get closer while holding her children captive in fear. She moved towards the back door, feeling for the cold metal of a knife she'd kept in the kitchen. She grabbed it and clutched it against her chest, its weight grounding her spinning thoughts. "Mommy. What's happening?" Her youngest whimpered. "Nothing, baby. Just stay in bed." As David's figure loomed closer, she could see him more clearly now, a dark silhouette with hollow eyes, mirror-like and glistening in the moonlight. He raised a hand, waving slowly as if he were welcoming her to an unseen nightmare. Her breath grew heavy. Should she confront him? Should she wait for him to try to break inside? But every second that passed felt like a countdown to disaster. If he had done this before, if he was truly who the stories described, he would not hesitate to invade her sanctuary. The tension hung thick like fog, wrapping around her, squeezing tighter. Suddenly she heard a soft knock on the back door, a gentle tap that felt all too sinister in the silent night. "Jamie?" The voice was smooth, almost too sweet. "Are you really going to keep hiding? Let's chat." Her heart pounded. She peered through the window, her grip on the knife tightening. What sort of twisted game was this? And just then, the lights flickered, illuminating the room in chaotic flashes, a heartbeat of darkness followed by a blaring light. In those brief seconds where illumination governed her sight, she could see he had moved, right to her door. "Open the door, Jamie." What should she do? The knife felt heavy and yet reassuring. If there was one thing she knew, it was that the man outside was trouble. But was he more than that? And what lay waiting for her once she faced the truth he offered? The night deepened, each second stretching longer than the last. What did he really want? Jamie drew a breath deep enough to fill her with courage and pressed her palm against the cold door handle, heart racing like a wild drum. The evening was not over yet. Tomorrow would bring more than screams, it would unveil the ultimate confrontation. Would she be ready for what lay ahead? Jamie's pulse thundered as she made contact with the cold door handle. A surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting a fierce determination. She wasn't going to be a victim. Not tonight. Not with her children asleep in the other room. "Open the door, Jamie." His voice was low and eerily calm, as if he held all the control. With a deep breath, she twisted the handle and pulled the door open just a crack. The chill of the night swept in, mixing with the stale air of her home. David stood there, a smile creeping across his face, one that didn't reach his eyes. They were dark pools, absorbing the light around them, reflecting nothing but malice. "Hello again," he said, his voice dripping with honey-laden menace. "I see you're still curious about the truth. Why are you doing this?" She shot back, her grip tightening on the knife hidden behind the door. "What do you want?" He leaned closer, so close she could see the individual hairs on his arms glisten in the faint light. You'll find out soon enough. But first let me show you something. Before she could respond, he took a step back, revealing a small, frayed photograph he had been holding. The image fluttered in the wind. Recognize anyone? He taunted, holding it just out of reach. She squinted, trying to focus on the faces staring back at her from that old, worn snapshot. Families. Happy faces. A wave of nausea crashed over her. One face stood out, a woman with golden hair, eyes shimmering like stars. It was her mother. Jamie gasped. This can't be. His smile widened, growing more sinister. All linked to the truth, Jamie. A truth you buried deep. Only I can help you unearth it. Leave us alone. She screamed, and slammed the door shut, heart racing. She locked it, feeling something clawing at her sanity. In moments, the weight of dread settled in again. What had she just seen? Why was David involved? The claims of her childhood hauntings echoed through her mind. She had always been told to forget, to move on. But now that past loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to break apart any semblance of her current reality. Did you hide your past, Jamie? His voice wafted through the cracks, a ghostly whisper. You've used your children as a shield, but the truth wants to break through that wall you built. Stop it. She shouted, clutching the knife tighter. She glanced towards the kids, still oblivious in their beds. What if David's twisted game pulled them into his darkness? The lights flickered again, and for a heartbeat, the room was cast into shadow. Panic surged through her, and she raced to the windows, drawing the curtains tight, blocking out the night. Breaths quickened, and Jamie fought back tears. She had to think. But he wouldn't stop. A soft tap now came at the front window, rhythmic and insistent. Jamie, come now. I can show you everything. The truth is waiting. Go away. She yelled, her voice cracking. In reply, she could hear him chuckle, the sound low and rumbling, like thunder harsh on a stormy night. She dropped the knife on the table and grabbed her phone. Maybe there was still time to call for help. With trembling fingers, she dialed. But as she pressed the call button, a loud crash echoed from the back door, followed by the sickening sound of splintering wood. Forcing a glance over her shoulder, she saw the doorframe cracking, and the realization washed over her like ice. Jamie. They're waiting. He howled, his presence slipping inside her home like fog creeping through midnight. Mom. One of the kids stirred and awakened, voice sharp with sleep. Stay in bed. She screamed, spinning towards the crashing sound, knife back in hand. As she stood there, time froze. The door threatened to break open, and in that moment, Jamie knew whatever came next would tear apart the fabric of her life. Every secret would unravel, every truth emerge, and the darkness would swallow her whole. As the door burst open, framing David's silhouette, laughter echoed in her ears, mocking, cruel, haunting. Are you ready to meet your past? He asked, stepping over the threshold, the light flickering behind him as if the universe itself trembled at the sight. And just like that, the nightmare began, her heart pounding louder than ever. Would she survive the storm he brought? Or would she fall into the abyss, her children lost in the chaos of a reckoning she couldn't comprehend? The door flew open with a violent bang, revealing David clad in shadows, his grin exaggerated, a predator pleased with the chaos he brought. Jamie's heart raced like a wild drum in her chest, the knife trembling in her gloved hands. She wanted to scream again, but words seemed lost in the fierce grip of terror. David, what do you want? Just tell me. She demanded, throwing her weight against the door, fighting against the tide of his presence. Ah, Jamie. You and your questions. Such a curious mind, always hungering for answers. But the truth? Oh, sweet child, you haven't been ready for it. You still aren't. The flickering light made him look serpentine, slipping in and out of sight. With every passing moment, Jamie felt the air thickening, like the world was pressing against her lungs. The kids stirred again, soft whimpers floating in the stillness, pulling her focus. "Stay in your rooms," she shouted, desperate to shield them from the shadows creeping closer. "In time, they'll understand," David whispered, glancing past her, his gaze penetrating. "They'll see who you really are." A flash of movement caught Jamie's eye. A large shadow shifted behind David. Panic slammed into her chest. "What's coming behind you?" "Oh, just my friends, Jamie," he crooned, his eyes lighting up with wicked delight. "They've been so eager to meet you." As he stepped fully inside, Jamie's instinct screamed for her to retreat. The warmth of the house felt colder, an icy dread wrapping around her like a vice. The wall clock ticked loudly, each tick mocking her fear. She knew she had to act fast. "Get away from me!" she yelled, lunging forward, the knife aimed like a dagger. But the moment felt sticky, almost unreal. David's laughter gelled the air, thick and claustrophobic. "Do you really think you can fight me?" he jeered, sidestepping her clumsy thrust with a grace that sent chills through her. It was almost as if he relished the dance of danger, a twisted ballet of fear. Then, she saw a glimmer of movement behind him. Two dark forms emerged, shadows that mimicked David's malicious smile. Twin figures, cloaked and silent, moved towards her like memory ghosts, drawn by dread. The sisters she thought she had buried, lost ones she recognized from photographs in her home. "Join us, Jamie," they whispered in unison, their voices echoing inside her mind, pulling at the fabric of her reality. "Stop!" she cried, pressing her back against the wall. "You're not real. You're just tricks, ghostly lies." David's face morphed into a mask of amusement, as he casually gestured toward the specters. "They're as real as the truth you've tried to hide." With a sudden rush, Jamie's breath hitched in her throat. Memories flooded back, scattered fragments of laughter, tears, and the blinding ache of loss. "You're dead. You can't haunt me. Not now." But the sisters melted closer, their faces inching into the flickering light. The truth splintered in her mind, pieces of a past she clawed to forget now clawing back at her. Desperation surged within her. "No. You're not doing this." She swung the knife, the metal gleaming as it sliced through the air. It met nothing but empty space, and the laughter erupted, cascading down like a waterfall of dread. Jamie turned, her heartbeat crescendoing, her mind swirling with confusion. "Your children need to learn, Jamie," David said, his voice echoing through the jagged silence. "Every friend and family member who crossed into the dark, it is time they know the truth too." And in that moment, the house shifted around her again. Light vanished, plunging them into darkness. She could feel every heartbeat, every shadow pressing closer, inching towards her children. The children. "Mom!" they cried, frightened voices climbing to a high pitch. "No! Stay where you are!" she shouted, grasping at the knife, fighting against the heaviness enveloping her. The floorboards creaked beneath David's weight. "Now, Jamie, who do you truly protect? The children? Or yourself?" The air grew frigid, and Jamie felt the sensation of claws, cold like steel, wrap around her heart. The walls pulsed, echoing with dread, and shadows danced as if they were part of some unimaginable symphony of despair. "Step into the light, Jamie. You'll find it can be so liberating if only you let go." Just as quickly as the darkness closed in, something shifted, a hand reaching for her. Would she brave the unknown? Or would she fall further into despair, her children snatched away into the void? As crackling electricity filled the air, Jamie realized one crucial truth: only a choice could ignite either salvation or doom. And it was coming. The darkness swirled with a life of its own. Jamie could barely see, but the weight of unseen eyes felt suffocating, 1,000 whispers clawing at her sanity. She clutched the knife tight, wishing she could brandish it against the shadows closing in. "Mom!" Her children's cries pierced her heart like daggers. They were trapped somewhere in the depths, their fear palpable, almost tangible. "Stay put. I'm coming," she shouted, desperation twisting her voice into a raw scream. She took a shaky step forward, the knife trembling in her hand. Suddenly, the shadows morphed into figures, swirling in front of her. They vibrated with energy, a cyclone of memories and fear. The sisters stepped from the darkness, their eyes glinting like cruel stars. Their smiles stretched too wide, too eerie, as if they reveled in the chaos. "Let us show you the truth," they hissed, their voices melting into the darkness like twisted melodies. Jamie shook her head violently, refusing to be pulled back into that nightmare. "I won't go with you. You're not real." But they didn't hesitate, just glided toward her, each step purposeful, like predators stalking their prey. The walls felt like they were closing in, the house becoming a coffin, ready to swallow her whole. Her pulse quickened. She felt like a trapped animal, teeth bared, ready to fight for survival. A guttural laugh erupted from David, echoing off the walls. "You think you can escape your past?" he taunted, stepping closer, the shadows dancing around him as if obeying his beckoning. "It's written all over you." With every step he took, Jamie felt the grip of dread tightening, a vice of despair. She thought of her children, cowering in the other room. No. They would not be next. She started, her voice trembling, "Get back." She lunged, swinging the knife wildly. It cut through nothing but air again, and David merely sidestepped with a mocking grin. "Freedom awaits if you would just listen," he taunted, beckoning with fingers that still glimmered in the flickering light. "Your children can be part of this world of truth, Jamie. They will understand all that you have done, your sacrifices, your secrets." The sisters' faces melted closer, their expressions hungry for her fear. "Join us, Jamie. It's better here. Embrace the truth." "Stop!" she screamed, realizing she must resist at all costs. Then she felt it. A cold gust of wind swept through the room, wrapping around her like skeletal hands. The light wavered again, and with it came a sudden flash of clarity. She remembered the last time she'd seen her sisters. The panicked whispers, the desperate cries that ended in silence. "No! This is a trick!" she shouted, but doubt gnawed at her, like a rat at a decaying carcass. The harsh reality of memory gripped her mind. She had lost them. Part of her longed to embrace them now, to escape into the oblivion they promised Mom. The kids cried out again, urgency clawing at Jamie's heart. She spun around, panic flooding her veins. "I'm coming. I want to let them take you." "Are you sure you can protect them, Jamie?" David whispered, his voice a chilling caress. "Or is it you who needs rescuing?" Jamie stumbled back, suddenly faced with two opposing realities, the warmth of her children's love and the suffocating pull of her past. Her mind raced. What if the truth was lurking within her, waiting to drag her down and expose everything she had tried to bury? As the light flickered wildly, the shadows loomed larger, climbing the walls like hungry vines. She needed to make a choice, but every path felt like a descent into madness. And then, from the depths of darkness, a piercing sound erupted. A loud crash from one of the rooms, not her children's cries, but the sound of something shattering, sending a jolt of fear racing through her. What had happened? Breathless, Jamie strained her ears, hearing nothing but the chorus of shadows surrounding her, yet a new realization took hold. "Maybe the light isn't what you think, Jamie," David taunted, as the atmosphere thickened with malice. What would she choose? The safety of ignorance or the peril of the truth? Just then, footsteps echoed in the hall, quick and frantic, breaking through the terror. Mom! Help! But the voice wasn't her children's. It belonged to someone she never expected to hear again. And amidst the gathering shadows, a new terror surged as Jamie realized the house was not just closing in, it was pulling every secret back into the light. The voice that pierced through the silence sent a shudder racing down Jamie's spine. It was a voice she thought she'd buried long ago, one that brought with it a flood of memories she wasn't ready to confront. "Lila," she whispered, incredulity lacing her words. "How could this be happening?" "Mom! Let me in." Lila's voice broke, mixing urgency with a haggard tone. The sound was familiar yet foreign, like an echo from her past. Jamie hesitated, torn between the phantom surrounding her and the blood-twisted yearning for the daughter she lost. The shadows filled the room with malicious delight, their laughter rising in unsettling crescendos, feeding on her hesitation. David's sneer twisted deeper into the darkness. "Come now, Jamie. You've lost enough already. Isn't it time to reunite?" A sharp pain shot through Jamie's chest. The memories swirled the night they lost. Lila warnings screamed in her mind. "Don't open it!" screamed a voice from inside, desperation clawing at the edges of her consciousness. Yet Lila's cries grew frantic, a soul trying to break through the shifting void. "Please! Mom! It's so dark out here. They're coming." Jamie's heart raced. She couldn't leave her child out there, no matter how much doubt filled her mind. But she felt the shadows coiling tighter around her, seductive whispers promising solace in truth. "Mom! I see them!" Lila cried, terror unmistakable in her voice. "They're right behind me." The shadows convulsed, a black tide driven by anger. Jamie clutched the knife like a lifeline, stepping towards the sound of her daughter's pleading, every instinct screaming to run. With every footstep, the walls pulsated rhythmically, echoing Lila's cries, twisting her resolve. "Don't give in to the lie. You know the truth." David's voice clawed at her sanity, each word like sandpaper against her mind. Jamie forced herself to focus. "Lila, where are you?" she shouted, half pleading, half defying the malign spirits that hovered around her. Just open the door." With every heartbeat, Jamie felt the weight of 1,000 memories descend. The night they had searched for Lila, the police sirens, the isolation that followed. The endless ache of a mother's loss haunted her like a relentless ghost. "Do not trust her," hissed the sisters, swarming closer, their presence suffocating. "Trust your past, Jamie. Dismissal only feeds the dark." "No. This is a trick." Jamie cried out, yet fear knotted in her stomach. What if it wasn't he? What if Lila really was there, at the door, fighting against everything they had lost? But then the cold air shifted, a rush that carried with it something foul. Jamie's eyes narrowed. "What was that?" she shouted. The shadows quivered, anticipating her next move. Then came a thud. Something fell just outside the door, a heavy, sickening sound that reverberated through her. "Mom! Please!" Her hands fluttered nervously with indecision, sweat pooling at the small of her back. She felt like a marionette, strings tangled tightly in the pull of her past and the screams of the present. Again came the crash, followed by an unmistakable growl, something far worse than shadows breaking through. The dark beings swarmed around her now, puppet strings pulling every emotion, every memory. "If you want them, you'll have to face the truth, Jamie," David's voice rumbled, deep and throaty. "Will you risk it? Or will you always be haunted?" Lila's cries faded, swallowed by the growing menace. Jamie's heart thudded painfully against her ribs. She reached for the door handle, her pulse a storm of hope and terror, knowing full well the twisted reality that awaited her beyond it. As she twisted the handle, the air thickened, whispers of choose, Jamie wrapped around her like a vice. Would she face the truths buried within, or would she plunge into the night from which she might never return? The moment she pushed the door open, she was met with silence, and yet something stirred in the woods outside, something waiting. And then, soft laughter broke through the stillness. It wasn't innocent. What she would find next could worm its way into her darkest fears. Could she survive the reconnection, or was this the final performance of the shadows? The door creaked slowly, resisting her push as if terrified of what lay beyond it. A cold breeze drifted in, carrying a damp chill that seeped into Jamie's bones. Shadows danced on the edges of her vision, morphing into shapes that lurked just beyond her sight. The laughter grew louder, echoing ominously through the darkness, mocking her. "Mom! Don't leave me!" Lila's voice burst through the laughter, desperate and faint. It was mingled with something else now, a low, growling hiss that wrapped around each word, thickening the air with dread. "Jamie, you're making a mistake," David nearly cooed from deep within the darkness. "You can't miss what you can't have. Open your eyes." Each whisper twisted her fragile sanity. Step outside and face a truth she long buried, or retreat inward and let the shadows consume her. Jamie's muscles trembled, caught in a vice grip of indecision. The knife felt heavy in her hand, a cold reminder of the battle that was far from over. Outside, the laughter faded, replaced with something more sinister, a rustle in the underbrush, a shuffling that sounded too deliberate. Whatever waited for her, it was aware, and it was coming closer. She felt a surge of dread, as if the ground beneath her feet knew that opening the door would break the last barrier between her and the relentless dark. "Lila," she called, her voice wavering as she leaned further outside, straining to see. "Please, where are you?" The only reply was silence, thick and suffocating, swallowing all sound. Yet, she felt a presence lurking, whispering promises of family and light, lost and found. "Mom!" The cry was softer now, a mere rasp echoing from the distance, tugging at an instinct as primal as the need to breathe. "Join us, Jamie," the sister's voice wove through the shadows, seductive and dangerous. "End your suffering. Lila is waiting." We all are in a dizzying wave, memories crashed over her, bits of laughter, fragments of joy, echoes of a life she'd lost. But beneath the greening nostalgia was an undercurrent of dread. She smelled the decay, felt the loss slither into her thoughts like a serpent, coiling tight, warning her not to trust. Jamie fought to let go, almost choking on the bitter truths. "Don't you want to see her again?" The darkness teased, curling around her legs, coaxing her to embrace the void. "All you have to do is step outside." And suddenly, through the silence, a flicker of light in the darkness. She turned, and there it was, a shimmering figure standing at the edge of the light, too bright to look at directly but unmistakable. "Lila." "Mom. Please." She reached out, vulnerability etched in her expression, a haunting reminder of Jamie's love and loss. "I need you." For a moment, Jamie's heart swelled with hope. But just as quickly, shadows lunged forward, shrieking with rage, retreating the light and filling the space with howls of despair. The laughter morphed into chilling cries, mingled with a sharp snarl that sent a jolt of terror through her. "No!" Jamie screamed, as the figure began to flicker, wavering like a flame in a gust. The door felt heavier now, the darkness pressing against her, flooding her senses. "Face them, Jamie. Release what lies behind," David urged, using her doubts against her, as she felt herself sliding backward into the shadow's clutch. She had to choose. How far would she go to save what might never return? Jamie's pulse raced, the shadows closing in, her breath quickening. Forging her way through terror, she took a step forward, sensing destiny prune her every action. In that moment of hesitation, the growling escalated, the laughter morphing into full-bodied screams. The air pulsed with anticipation. What would she discover outside that door? Would the laughter end, or would it be the last fragile thread tying her to the past? As she breathed in, readying herself to step into the unknown, the ground beneath trembled ominously, cracking open an unseen world waiting to be unleashed. And from the gaping woods, a chorus of whispers rose, beckoning her to step beyond and embrace the dark invitation. Would she dare? The moment Jamie pushed the door open, the sorcery of the night clawed at her skin, a visceral warning to turn back. What lay outside was an abyss of shadows, swirling as if in a frenzy, hungry for something that was once hers, her daughter, her purpose, her sanity. Lila. The name escaped her lips like a desperate prayer. Her heart thudded wildly, a pulsating drumbeat against the silence. As she crossed the threshold, every instinct screamed to retreat, but she felt a magnetic pull, an invisible thread woven from anxiety and hope. The night was alive, vibrantly grotesque. Trees twisted toward her like hands reaching out from the grave, their gnarled branches stretching in a frantic dance, their leaves whispering secrets she couldn't comprehend. The laughter had faded, replaced with an unsettling stillness, yet the shadows lurked, pulsating with an energy that set her teeth on edge. "Be brave, Jamie," she whispered to herself. It was a lie, but a necessary one. Glancing back at the frayed edge of her home, she could see it now a mere soft glow, a feeble reminder of warmth and safety. But Lila was out here, lost in the dark. She couldn't turn away now. Each step drew her deeper into a landscape that felt like a dream gone wrong. The ground squelched underfoot, a puddle of rotting leaves exhaling a foul odor that made her stomach churn. Something terrible was lingering just beyond her vision, waiting, watching. "Mom!" The cry shot through the darkness, clearer, more urgent. It twisted in her stomach, igniting a primal instinct to run. But which way? Lila's voice was coming from everywhere and nowhere, a siren's song luring her deeper. "Lila!" she shouted, squinting into the shadows beyond. The air thickened, heavy and suffocating. She stumbled forward, knife clenched in her hand, every nerve alight with fear. A noise rippled through the underbrush, low and throaty. It didn't belong to Lila. Breath caught in her throat, she scanned the shadows, feeling their keen gaze upon her. The trees were no longer still, their silhouettes warped and twisted, forming faces staring back with hollow eyes. She wanted to flee, to scramble back inside, to barricade herself against reality, but there was no escape from the otherworldly grip of the dark. And then she saw it. A flicker of movement, a shape hungering for attention at the edge of her vision. What was it? A figment of her imagination? She leaned closer, driven by a need greater than rational thought. "Come play with us." The voice was soft yet sharp, echoing through the dense night. A sound that promised companionship but dripped with malice. The figure stepped closer, a shadow morphing into a horrific semblance of her daughter. "Lila!" Jamie cried, her heart clenching. The shape was wrong, twisted. Eyes, once vibrant, glowed with a ghastly hunger. "You're not her. Why would you turn away?" The twisted figure smiled, too wide, too similar, as Lila's voice slithered through with uncanny familiarity. "We can be together again." With a surge of instinct, Jamie raised the knife, trembling, mind racing. But was this Lila? Was there any chance she could be saved? The shadows buzzed around her, laughing in glee as the illusion danced on the edge of her broken hope. "Be careful, Jamie," a whispered voice echoed down from the trees, serrated with malice. "They are hungry for you now." The ground rumbled again, fissures spreading as if the world itself shifted at the sound of her doubt. Something deep inside her screamed. She had to choose. Stay and confront this parasitic evil, or fight her way back to the sanctuary she clung to. As she hesitated, the laughter surged, cascading around her, sharpening into a cacophony of wails. The shadows lunged, coiling around her feet, dragging her down. The darkness hungered, no longer merely a backdrop but an enemy, eager to swallow her whole. "Mom!" The cry pierced through the chaos, pulling at her heartstrings with an agony she couldn't ignore. With every ounce of strength, she broke through the weight of despair, screaming back into the night. "I am coming, Lila. But doom hung heavy in the air, tinged with deception and reality jarring together in an eerie fusion. What awaited her as she plunged deeper into the void? And if she wasn't careful, would she also become claimed to the darkness, just another lost soul forgotten among the whispers of the forest? Jamie felt a tightening around her ankles, as if the shadows were fingers gripping her ankles, pulling her down into a grotesque dance of despair. The laughter, the voices, it all melded together into an orchestra of terror that bridged the space between her fading hope and the nightmare unfolding before her. "Fight!" she shouted, her voice cracking, splintering like glass against the relentless dark. With a surge of desperation, she cut through the tendrils around her legs. They resisted, dragging her back into an abyss she couldn't comprehend. "Mom!" Lila's voice echoed once more, a twist of innocence wrapped in a horror she had never imagined. She didn't know how the shadows could mimic her daughter's sweet tone, but she felt it like a knife to her heart. The pull of the darkness was overwhelming, and in that moment, despair crept into her bones, chilling her from within. "Where are you, Lila?" she cried, the knife slipping cruelly in her sweaty palm. The air became a thick fog, wrapping around her throat, squeezing. "Come find me," the shape taunted, its contours twitching like a marionette in the hands of its puppeteer. "There's so much fun to be had, we can be together forever." The ground heaved beneath her feet, the laughter rising to a triumphant pitch. Enough. Jamie pulled herself together, fighting against the preposterous notion that she might join them. She stumbled forward, and the sudden surge of adrenaline elevated her instincts above the clamor surrounding her. "Show yourself!" she yelled, swinging the knife wildly as another creature emerged, a thing with burning, red eyes gleaming under the cover of the night. The moment she caught sight of it, a primal scream rose in her throat. It wasn't Lila. It wasn't even close. The thing was a nightmare, a sickening mockery of her daughter, its jaws full of teeth too long, too sharp, curved in a hungry grin. "Play games, Jamie," it hissed, raising bloody hands that dripped with night. "It's more fun when you join." But she would not fall into their trap. The cold terror coursing through her veins ignited a fierce determination. She backed away, the knife steady in her shaking hand, fueled by the fear of losing everything she once held dear. "Lila." The name fell from her lips like a prayer once more, infused now with renewed strength. "I am coming for you. I'm not afraid." Ripping herself free from the sneering darkness, she sprinted deeper into the forest. Twisting branches lashed at her, claws made to ensnare, but she ducked, weaving through them, painting a picture of defiance with every forward step. The laughter grew frantic behind her, an unsettling sound that echoed her defiance. Then suddenly, the ground shifted again, a violent tremor, and the shadows coiled back for just a moment, as if recognizing the strength of her resolve. She used it every ounce of her remaining energy to press forward. The forest opened up ahead, revealing a clearing, moonlit and serene, almost mocking in its calm. But there, against the far edge, a figure stood. The distortion in the air around it pulsed Lila. "Mom!" She waved her arms, but Jamie could see that the shape surrounding her daughter flickered with darkness and malice. "No! Lila!" Jamie shouted, rushing toward her, heart pounding wildly. "Come to me!" Lila's voice called, reaching out as Jamie sprinted closer. The ethereal glow around her flickered, casting bizarre shadows that danced in the trees. But then Jamie hesitated, something crawling at the back of her mind. The sinister atmosphere still loomed, an omnipresent creature watching her every move. Was it really Lila, or were they planning to trap her once more? "Mom! Please!" the child cried, and Jamie felt heat creep into her heart, but she couldn't shake the haunting reminder of what she had just seen, the truth masked in a facade. Just a few steps away, the shadows lunged again, threatening to engulf her anew. She stood there, torn between her frantic love for her daughter and the looming terror that something foul was at play. What would she choose? The embrace of her child or the risk of Being swallowed whole by a dark that wanted her forever? Choose wisely, whispered a voice from the trees, darker than the very night itself. Jamie's breath quickened. She couldn't stay static now. She must decide before the shadows consumed her and before her daughter vanished forever into the clutches of the abyss. With dread hanging heavy in the air, she took a deep breath and stepped forward. But as she did, a deafening silence fell, and a chilling realization washed over her. What if Lila wasn't the only thing lost? What if the darkness wanted more than just Jamie? Jamie's heart raced as the silence enveloped her, thick and oppressive. Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, to turn away from the figure at the edge of the clearing, but the desperate plea of her daughter echoed in her ears. "Mom! Please!" She stepped closer, each movement prickling her skin, the shadows swirling like a tempest around her. "Lila, my baby!" She could see her now, the flickering light wavering like a candle in the storm, but doubt clawed at Jamie's heart like a wild beast. What if it was a trap? What if stepping closer meant surrendering to darkness? "Come to me, Mama," Lila urged, her voice as sweet as it was aching. But another part of Jamie worried that this wasn't her daughter. It was a cruel illusion, another monster cloaked in familiarity, teasing her with a false promise. "Stay back!" Jamie shouted, gripping the knife like a lifeline. The shadows behind her murmured, snickering, creeping ever closer. They thrived on her fear, and she couldn't let them take hold. "Mom!" Lila's voice shattered through the darkness, resonating with pangs of love that pulled at Jamie's very soul. "Please! I'm scared." Jamie's resolve wavered as she recalled the desperate searches, the failed hopes, the ache of loss that buried itself deep within her. It had consumed her for years, the guilt and sorrow of losing her daughter in a world that turned its back. "Don't!" she warned herself. She couldn't let those memories swallow her whole. Not now, not in front of this haunting specter. But as she held the knife tightly, doubt seeped in like poison. "Come closer, Mama," Lila cooed, her voice soft and inviting, but the shadows whispered maliciously, tugging at Jamie's sanity. "You know you want to," and then, in a rush of clarity, Jamie understood. This was David's game, an intricate dance of manipulation. She was caught, ensnared in a web of darkness and light, where true safety seemed like a fleeting illusion. The choice before her wasn't just about reaching for her daughter's arms, it was about confronting the monster that prowled in the shadows, the one she had tried to escape. "Lila! Listen! You're not her!" Jamie yelled, her voice cracking but resolute. "You're a lie wrapped in my love. I won't be fooled again." The flicker dimmed, and the figure seemed to falter, shadows twisting violently, snapping like angry whips. Jamie's heart pounded, echoing the tension. The air thickened with rage, a gust swept through the clearing, and the shadows recoiled, shrieking like lost souls. "You can't just turn away, Jamie." David's voice reverberated through the trees, a haunting melody. "You can't resist the truth forever." In that moment, Jamie felt empowered. She would not cower in fear any longer. Drawing the knife back, she confronted the swirling darkness, the fear that haunted her, a fierce storm that roared deep within her. "I choose to fight. I choose love over your darkness." With every ounce of courage she could muster, Jamie charged forward, aiming for the deceitful specter that had once donned the face of her daughter. The knife glinted in the light of the moon, gleaming with purpose. "Stay away!" she shouted, slicing through the air. The shadows recoiled as if burned by her defiance, flickering and shifting like a wildfire. The clearing erupted with light, dissolving the mists of despair. Jamie felt a warm rush of energy flowing from within as anguish transformed into resolve. "Lila!" she cried out, the name a powerful shield against the shadows closing in. "I know who I am, and you can't take that from me." The figure faltered, its eyes dimming, the laughter turning to a screech of anger. "You will never see her again." It hissed, a deadly snarl in its voice. But Jamie pressed on, breaking through the barrier of fear that had held her captive for far too long. I am your mother. I love you, and nothing will tear us apart. Suddenly, bright light engulfed her surroundings, illuminating the edges of the dark. The spectre wailed, howling into the night as the shadows dissipated, retreating into the void. Assimilating the grounding warmth, Jamie felt her heart swell with pure determination. And then, there she was, Lila, standing under the soft glow, eyes wide and filled with innocence and love. Mom! She cried, running toward Jamie, joy shimmering in every step. They embraced, locking themselves in a cocoon of warmth, the truth a steadfast bond between them. I thought I lost you, Jamie wept, overwhelming relief crashing over her like waves. Never, Lila whispered, grounding Jamie as they let the light swell around them, washing away the darkness that had threatened to consume their lives. And in that moment, Jamie understood she had faced the darkness, she had unearthed her truths, and despite the terror that had clawed at her heart, she chose to emerge with her daughter at last. As the echoes of the dark faded, Jamie tightened her hold on Lila. They could finally start anew, freed from the chains of their past, hand in hand, ready to navigate the light and embrace the future. As they walked towards the fading darkness, Jamie felt empowered. She had broken chains and faced demons, and now, it was time to live life without fear. If you felt the intensity, the fears, and the love this story offered, then you need to subscribe now for more heart-pounding tales. Swear to smash that like button to help feed the algorithm. Don't let this thrilling conclusion fade. Flood the comments below with your thoughts and reactions. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see how fear can be conquered. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.